Matthew chapter 10. Then he called his 12 students to him, and gave them authority over unclean spirits, in order to throw them out, and to cure every disease and ailment. Now the names of the 12 dispatched envoys are these: first, Simon, called Peter, and his brother Andrew; James, Zebedee's son, and his brother John; Philip and Bartholomew, or Nathanael; Thomas and Matthew, the tribute, or tax collector; James the little one, Alphaeus' son; and Judas Thaddeus; Simon the Canaanist; and Judas the Iscariot, the one who also delivered him over. Jesus dispatched these 12, and charged them, saying, You must not go ahead into a road of the pagans, and must not enter into a city of the Samaritans, but rather you must go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Now you must go and be proclaiming, saying, The heavenly kingdom is already drawing near. You must be curing the weak or sick, awakening the dead, making the lepers clean, and throwing out demons. You obtained freely, so you must give freely. You must not acquire gold, silver, or bronze coins in your money belts, or a provisions bag for the road, or 2 gowns, or additional sandals, or an additional staff, for the worker is worthy of his nourishment. Now into whatever city or village you enter, you must inquire who is worthy in it, and must stay there until you go out. Now as you enter into a house, you must hug them, and if the household is worthy, you must let your peace come upon them. Yet if they aren't worthy, you must let your peace return to you. Whenever no one welcomes you or hears your words, you must go out of that house or city and shake off the dust from your feet, to indicate that you have nothing in common with them. Truly I say to you, it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah on Judgment Day than for that city. Notice, I am dispatching you like sheep in the middle of wolves. So then, you must continually be as intelligent as snakes, and as unsophisticated as doves. Now you must be continually paying attention to humans, for they will deliver you over to Jewish councils, and they will afflict you with lashes in their assemblies. Now you will even be led before governors and kings on account of me, for a testimony to them to the pagans. Now whenever they deliver you over, you must not be concerned about how or what you should speak, because what you should speak will be given to you during that hour. For you aren't the ones who will be speaking, but it will be your Father's Spirit that will be speaking in you. Now a brother or sister will deliver over his brother or sister to be put to death, and a father his child, and children will rise up against their parents, and will put them to death. You will be hated by everyone because of my name, Jesus. Yet whoever endures to the completion of the world or the completion of his life will be saved from destruction. Now, whenever they persecute you in this city, you must run away to a different one. For truly I say to you, under no circumstances will you complete the cities of Israel until the Son of Humanity comes. A student isn't above his teacher, nor is a slave above his master. It is sufficient for the student to become like his teacher, and the slave like his master. If they have called the head of the house Beelzebub, Lord of the house Satan, how much more those of his household? So then, you must not be afraid of them, for nothing is covered up that won't be revealed, and hidden that won't be known. What I say to you in the darkness, you must say in the light. What you hear in the ear, you must proclaim on the housetops. You must stop being afraid of those who kill the body, yet can't kill the sentient being. But rather, you must be continually afraid of the one who can destroy both the sentient being and the body in Gehenna. This is symbolic of the destroying fire of the second death, Revelation 20, verses 14 through 15. Don't 2 sparrows sell for a number 8 Roman coin? But not one of them will fall on the earth without your Father's notice. Now even the hairs of your head have been numbered. So then, you must stop being afraid. You are of more consequence than many sparrows. So then, everyone who will acknowledge me in front of humans, I will also acknowledge him in front of my Father who is in the heavens. Yet whoever disowns me in front of humans, I will also disown him in front of my Father who is in the heavens. You must not surmise that I came to thrust peace upon the earth. I didn't come to thrust peace, but a sword. But I came to pit a human against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And the enemies of a human are those of his own household. Micah 7, verse 6. Whoever is fond of his father or mother above me isn't worthy of me, and whoever is fond of his son or daughter above me isn't worthy of me. Whoever isn't taking his stake and continually following after me isn't worthy of me. Whoever finds his sentient being, his life, will destroy it in the destruction. And whoever destroys his sentient being on my account will find it alive in the last age. Whoever welcomes you welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who has dispatched me. Whoever welcomes a prophet because he is named as a prophet from Almighty, will obtain the same wages as the prophet, and whoever welcomes a just person because he is named as a just person before Almighty, will obtain the same wages as the just person. Whoever gives only a cup of cold water to drink to one of these little ones, because he is named as a student of mine, truly I say to you, shall by no means lose his wages. Matthew chapter 11. Then it occurred when Jesus had completed advocating to his 12 students, that he proceeded from there to teach and proclaim in their cities. Now when John heard in the prison about the works of the Anointed One, he sent a message through his students, saying to him, "Are you the one who is to come?" Daniel 9, verses 24 through 27. "Or should we expect a different one?" Then in response, Jesus said to them, "You must go and report to John what you are hearing and observing. The blind are receiving their sight, the lame are walking, the lepers are made clean, the deaf are hearing, the dead are being awakened, and the poor are receiving the good message. So whoever doesn't trip because of me is happy." Now as these were going, Jesus began to say to the crowds about John, "What did you go out into the wasteland to gaze at? A reed shaken by the wind? That is, a weak, unimportant person, in contrast to a sturdy tree. If not, what did you go out to notice? A human dressed in soft garments? Notice, the ones who wear soft garments are in the houses of kings. But what did you go out for? To notice a prophet? Yes, I say to you, and abundantly more than a prophet. This is the person about whom it has been written. Notice, I am dispatching my messenger before your face, who will construct your road in front of you. Malachi 3 verse 1. Truly I say to you, among those born of women, a person greater than John the Immerser hasn't got up. Yet even the least important person in the heavenly kingdom is greater than he is. Now, from the days of John the Immerser even until now, the heavenly kingdom is being forced open, and the forceful, eager persons are seizing it. For all the prophets and the law prophesied about it until John, and if you are willing to accept it, he is Elijah, the person who was going to come. Whoever has ears must be continually hearing. Now to what shall I compare this generation? It is like little boys and girls sitting in the marketplaces, who shout to the others and say, "We played a flute to you, and you didn't dance. We wailed, and you didn't grieve. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say, 'He has a demon.' The Son of Humanity came eating and drinking, and they say, 'Notice, a gluttonous human and a wine drinker, a friend of tribute or tax collectors and wrongdoers.' Now wisdom has been justified by her acts." Then he began to reproach the cities in which most of his powerful works occurred, for they didn't change their thoughts and feelings. "How terrible it is for you, Chorazin! How terrible it is for you, Bethsaida! For if the powerful works that occurred in you had occurred in Tyre and Sidon, they would have changed their thoughts and feelings long ago, sitting in sackcloth and ashes. Moreover, I say to you, it will be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon on Judgment Day than for you. And you, Capernaum, his hometown, won't be elevated to heaven, will you? You will step down to the grave. For if the powerful works that occurred in you had occurred in Sodom, it would have stayed until today. Moreover, I say to you that it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom on Judgment Day than for you." On the same occasion, Jesus said in response, "I acclaim you, Father, Master of heaven and earth, because you hid these things from those considered to have wisdom and understanding, and revealed them to youngsters. Yes, Father, because this is how it was a delight in front of you. All things have been delivered over to me by my Father. No one is fully knowing the Son except the Father, nor does anyone fully know the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son intends to reveal him. You must come here to me, all you who are laboring and being made to carry cargo, and I will give you rest. You must lift my yoke upon you, and must learn from me, because I am unassumingly gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest in your sentient beings. For my yoke is kindly, and my cargo is light." Matthew chapter 12. On the same occasion, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath day, Saturday, and his students became hungry, and began to pluck and eat the heads of grain. Now when the Pharisees noticed it, they said to him, "Notice, your students are doing something that isn't allowed to be done on the Sabbath day." Yet he said to them, "Haven't you read what David did, when he and those with him were hungry? How he entered into the house of Almighty, and they ate the presentation biscuits, which he wasn't allowed to eat, nor those with him, except only the priests? Haven't you read in the law that on the Sabbath day the priests in the sacred place make the Sabbath day impure, and are faultless? Now I say to you that something greater than the sacred place is here. Now if you had known what this means, I want mercy and not sacrifice, Hosea 6 verse 6, you wouldn't have condemned the faultless. For the Son of Humanity is the master of the Sabbath day. Then, when he proceeded from there, he went into their assembly. Now notice, there was a human who had a withered hand. So they asked him, saying, Is it allowed to cure on the Sabbath days, Saturdays? So that they might accuse him. Yet he said to them, What human is there among you, if he had one sheep, and it falls into a pit on the Sabbath day, won't take hold of it and get it up? A human is of so much more consequence than a sheep, so that it is allowed to be doing ideally on the Sabbath day. Then he said to the human, Stretch out your hand. So he stretched it out, and it was restored, as healthy as the other. Now the Pharisees went out and held a consultation against him about how to destroy him. Now Jesus knew this and departed from there. Plus many followed him, and he cured them all. Then he warned them not to make him apparent, so that what was declared through the prophet Isaiah might be fulfilled, saying, Notice, this is my boy whom I have preferred, my dearly loved one, with whom my sentient being is delighted. I will place my spirit upon him, and he will report about judgment to the pagans. He won't cause conflicts, nor yell, nor will anyone hear his voice in the town squares. He won't fracture a bruised or broken down reed, that is, a weak, dying person, and he won't extinguish a smoldering flax, or wick, that is, a person whose light is almost dead, until he has thrown out judgment for victory. Plus, the pagans will put their hope on his name. Isaiah 42, verses 1 through 4. Then a blind and mute person who was possessed by a demon was brought to him, and he cured him, so that the mute person spoke and observed. Then all the crowds were amazed and began saying, Couldn't this one be the son of David? Yet the Pharisees heard this and said, This one doesn't throw out the demons except by Beelzebub, lord of the house, Satan, the chief of the demons. Yet he was aware of how they felt and said to them, Every kingdom that is divided against itself is going to be made into waste, and every city or household that is divided against itself won't stand. If Satan is throwing out Satan, he is divided against himself. So then, how will his kingdom stand? Now, if I'm throwing out demons by Beelzebub, by whom do your sons throw them out? For this reason, they will be your judges. Now, if I'm throwing out demons by Almighty's Spirit, therefore Almighty's kingdom has overtaken you and is upon you. How can anyone enter into a strong person's house and seize his items unless first he ties up the strong person? Then he can seize things throughout his house. Whoever isn't continually with me is against me, and whoever isn't continually gathering with me is scattering. For this reason I say to you, every wrongdoing and slandering will be forgiven humans, yet the slandering of the Spirit won't be forgiven. Whoever says a word against the Son of Humanity will be forgiven, yet whoever says anything against the pure Spirit won't be forgiven, neither in this age nor in the one that is going to come, the last age. You must either make or consider the tree ideal and its fruit ideal, or must make or consider the tree rotten and its fruit rotten. For a tree is known by its fruit. You offspring of poisonous viper snakes, how can you speak good things when you are wicked? For the mouth is going to speak from what the heart has in abundance. The good human is going to extract good things from his good treasure, and the wicked human is going to extract wicked things from his wicked treasure. Now I say to you, for every idle declaration that humans speak, they will pay back an account concerning it on Judgment Day, at the beginning of the last age. For you will be justified by your words, and you will be condemned by your words. Then some of the Bible scholars and Pharisees responded to him by saying, Teacher, we want to see a sign from you. Yet in response he said to them, A generation that is wicked and like a wife who has extramarital sexual intercourse, that is, one that worships other mighty ones, seeks for a sign, and a sign won't be given to it, except for the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was in the belly of the whale, or large marine animal, for 3 days and 3 nights, so will the Son of Humanity be under the power of the earth's heart for 3 days and 3 nights. The people of Nineveh will rise up with this generation at the judgment and will condemn it, because they changed their thoughts and feelings at the proclamation of Jonah. And notice, something better than Jonah is here. The queen of the south will be awakened from this generation at the judgment, and will condemn it, because she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. And notice, something better than Solomon is here. Now whenever the unclean spirit comes out of a human, it passes through waterless places, seeking rest, and doesn't find it. Then it says, I will return to my home from where I came out. So it goes and finds it unoccupied, swept, and decorated. Then it goes and takes along with it 7 other spirits more wicked than itself, and they enter and make a home there. And the last state of that human becomes worse than the first. This is how it will also be for this wicked era. While he was still speaking to the crowds, notice, his mother and brothers and sisters were standing outside, seeking to speak to him. Now someone said, Notice, your mother and your brothers and sisters are standing outside, seeking to speak to you. Yet in response he said to the person who said this to him, Who is my mother, and who are my brothers and sisters? Then, stretching out his hand over his students, he said, Notice, my mother and my brothers and sisters. For whoever is doing what is wanted by my Father, who is in the heavens, is my brother and sister and mother. Matthew chapter 13. On that day Jesus went out of the house and began sitting beside the sea, Lake Gennesaret. Then great crowds gathered around him, so he stepped into a ship to sit, and the entire crowd stood on the beach. Then he spoke many things to them in illustrations, saying, Notice, the seed planter went out to plant seeds. Now in planting his seeds, some fell beside the road, and the birds came and devoured it. Yet some other fell on the rocky places, where it didn't have much earth, and immediately it shot up, because it didn't have any depth of earth. Yet when the sun had risen, it was scorched, and because it had no root, it dried up. Yet some other fell on the thorns, and the thorns came up and choked it. Yet some other fell on the ideal earth, and began giving fruit. This one 100 times over, this one 60, and this one 30. Whoever has ears must be continually hearing." Then the students approached and said to him, "Why do you speak to them in illustrations?" Now in response he said to them, "Because to know the secrets of the heavenly kingdom has been given to you, yet it hasn't been given to them. For whoever uses what he has, more will be given to him, and he will have an abundance. Yet whoever doesn't use what he has, even what he has will be taken away from him. For this reason, I speak to them in illustrations, because though they observe, they don't observe, and though they hear, they don't hear, neither do they understand." So Isaiah's prophecy is being fulfilled in them, saying, "You will keep on hearing, but shall by no means understand, and you will keep on observing, but shall by no means have any awareness. For the hearts of these people have become fat, or unfeeling, and their ears have become hard of hearing, and they have shut their eyes, so that not at any time shall they have any awareness with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn back to me, so I will heal them." Isaiah 6, verses 9 through 10. "Yet your eyes are happy, because they are observing, and your ears because they are hearing. Truly I say to you, many prophets and just persons desired to be aware of what you are observing, but didn't have any awareness of it, and to hear what you are hearing, but didn't hear it. So then, you must hear the illustration of the seed planter. When anyone hears the word about the kingdom and doesn't understand it, the wicked one, Satan, comes and seizes what has been planted in his heart. This is the person beside the road on which the seed was planted. Now the one on the rocky places on which the seed was planted, this is the person who hears the word and immediately takes it with joy. Yet since he doesn't have any of its root in himself, he is temporary. When oppression or persecution comes because of the word, he trips immediately. Now the one among the thorns, into which the seed was planted, this is the person who hears the word, but the concerns of this age and the enticement of riches stifle the word, and it becomes unfruitful. Now the one on the ideal earth, on which the seed was planted, this is the person who is hearing the word and is understanding it, who by all means is producing fruit and making. This person 100 times over, this person 60, and this person 30. He placed before them another illustration, saying, "The heavenly kingdom is like a human who plants ideal seeds in his field. Yet while the humans were lying down asleep, his enemy came and planted bitter grain weeds over it through the center of the grain, and went away. Now when the blade germinated and made fruit, the bitter grain weeds appeared then also. Now the slaves of the head of the house approached and said to him, 'Master, didn't you plant ideal seeds in your field? So then, where did the bitter grain weeds come from?' Now he affirmed to them, 'Some enemy has done this.' Now the slaves said to him, 'So then, do you want us to go ahead and call them?' Yet he affirmed, 'By no means, because at some time while you are culling the bitter grain weeds, you might uproot the grain at the same time with it. You must leave both to grow up together until the harvest. Then, at the harvest time, I will declare to the harvesters, you must first cull the bitter grain weeds and tie them into bundles to burn them. yet you must gather the grain into my barn." He placed before them another illustration, saying, "The heavenly kingdom is like a mustard kernel that a human took and planted in his field. On the one hand, it is smaller than all the seeds, yet on the other hand, when it is full grown, it is greater than the vegetables, and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the sky come and roost among its branches." He spoke to them another illustration, saying, "The heavenly kingdom is like leavened dough, which a woman took and hid in 3 pecks of meal, coarse flour, until the whole thing became leavened." Jesus spoke of these things to the crowds in illustrations, and he wasn't speaking anything to them apart from what was an illustration, so that what was declared through the prophet might be fulfilled, saying, "I will open my mouth in illustrations. I will emit things which have been hidden from the foundation." Musical Composition 78, verse 2. Then he left the crowds and entered into the house. His students came to him and said, "Make clear to us the illustration about the bitter grain weeds of the field." Now in response he said, "The one who plants the ideal seeds is the Son of Humanity. Now the field is the world. Now as for the ideal seeds, these are the sons or heirs of the kingdom. Now the bitter grain weeds are the sons of the wicked one, Satan. Now the enemy who plants them is the adversary, Satan. Now the harvest is the conclusion of the age, the beginning of the last age. Now the harvesters are messengers. So then, just like the bitter grain weeds are culled and burned up with fire, this is how it will be at the conclusion of the age. The Son of Humanity will dispatch his messengers, and they will cull out his kingdom, all the obstacles that can cause one to trip, and those doing lawlessness, and will throw them into the furnace of fire, to be destroyed in the second death. Revelation 20, verses 14 through 15, where there will be weeping and the grinding of teeth. Then those who are just will shine out like the sun in their Father's kingdom. Whoever has ears must be continually hearing. The heavenly kingdom is like a treasure hidden in the field, which when a human found it, he hid it. Then, in his joy, he goes away and sells everything that he has and buys that field. Again, the heavenly kingdom is like a human merchant who was seeking for ideal pearls. Now when he had found one very precious pearl, he went away and disposed of everything that he had, and bought it. Again, the heavenly kingdom is like a dragnet thrown into the sea, that gathered up every type of fish. When it was filled full, they hauled it up on the beach. Then they sat down and culled the ideal ones into pails, yet threw out the rotten ones. This is how it will be at the conclusion of the age, the beginning of the last age. The messengers will go out, and will cut off those who are wicked from among those who are just, and will throw them into the furnace of fire, to be destroyed in the second death, where there will be weeping and the grinding of teeth. Do you understand all these things? They said to him, Yes. Now he said to them, For this reason, every Bible scholar who is made a student in the heavenly kingdom is like a human head of house who is extracting from his treasure new things and old things. Now it occurred when Jesus had completed these illustrations that he withdrew from there, Capernaum. He went into his own country, Nazareth, and began teaching them in their assembly, so that they were astonished and said, Where did this person get this wisdom and these powerful works? Isn't this the craftsman's son? Isn't his mother said to be Mary? And aren't his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Jude? Aren't all his sisters with us? So then, where did this person get all these things? Now they tripped because of him. Yet Jesus said to them, A prophet isn't without honor, except in his own country and in his home. So he didn't do many powerful works there, because of their unbelief. Matthew chapter 14. On the same occasion Herod, the quad prince, heard news about Jesus, and said to his servant boys, This is John the Immerser. He has been awakened from among the dead, and for this reason powerful works operate in him. For Herod had taken hold of John, and bound him, and put him away in jail, because of Herodias his brother Philip's wife. For John had been saying to him, It isn't allowed for you to have her. Though he wanted to kill him, he was afraid of the crowd, because they had taken him as a prophet. Now when Herod's birthday celebrations came, the daughter of Herodias danced among them, and pleased Herod. For this reason he acknowledged with an oath to give her whatever she requested. Now she was instigated by her mother, and affirmed, Give me the head of John the Immerser, here on a platter. Now the king was sorry, yet because of the oaths, and those lying back at the table with him, he ordered it to be given. So he sent them to behead John in the jail. Then his head was brought on a platter and given to the girl, and she carried it to her mother. Then his students approached and took away his corpse and buried it. Then they came and reported to Jesus about it. Now when Jesus heard about it, he departed from there in a ship into a place in the wasteland privately. And when the crowds heard about it, they followed him on foot from the cities. When he came out and noticed a great crowd, he felt compassion for them, and cured those of them who were in poor health. Now as evening, 6 to 9 p.m. came on, the students approached him, saying, This place is a wasteland, and the hour for eating has already passed by. So then, you must dismiss the crowds, so that they might go away into the villages and buy food for themselves. Yet Jesus said to them, They don't need to go away. You must give them something to eat. Yet they said to him, We don't have anything here except 5 biscuits and 2 fish. Now he said, Bring them here to me. Then he ordered the crowds to recline on the grass, and taking the 5 biscuits and the 2 fish, he looked up into heaven and gave the blessing. Then, breaking up the biscuits, he gave them to the students, now the students to the crowds. They all ate and were satisfied. Then they picked up 12 large baskets full of the abundant fragments. Now those who ate were about 5,000 men, apart from the women and little children. Then he immediately compelled his students to step into the ship and to precede him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. Then, when he had dismissed the crowds, he ascended onto the mountain privately to pray. Now as evening, 6 to 9 p.m. came on, he was there alone. Now the ship was already many stadium lengths away from the land, in the middle of the sea, or lake, being tortured by the waves, for the wind was contrary. Now during the 4th watch, 3 to 6 a.m., of the night, he came to them, walking on the sea. Now when the students noticed him walking on the sea, they were disturbed, saying, It is a phantom!" And they yelled out from fear. Now immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Have courage, it is I. Stop being afraid." In response, Peter said, "Master, if it is you, order me to come to you on the water." Now he said, "Come." Then Peter descended from the ship, and walked on the water, and went to Jesus. Yet when he observed the strong wind, he was afraid, and as he began to sink, he yelled out, saying, "Master, save me!" Now immediately Jesus stretched out his hand, took hold of him, and said to him, "You of little faith, why did you hesitate?" Then when they went up into the ship, the wind dropped off. Now those in the ship worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are Almighty's Son." Then, when they had gone across to the other side, they came to land at Gennesaret. Now when the people of that place recognized him, they dispatched word into the whole country around there, and brought to him all those who had an illness. Now they began encouraging him to only let them touch the tassel of his outer garment, and all those who touched it were saved from their illnesses through it. Matthew chapter 15. Then some Pharisees and Bible scholars came to Jesus from Jerusalem and said, "Why do your students step beyond the boundaries of the tradition of the older ones? For they don't wash their hands whenever they eat a biscuit." Now in response he said to them, "Why do you also step beyond the boundaries of Almighty's direction because of your tradition? For Almighty said, 'You must be continually honoring your father and mother.' Exodus 20, verse 12. And whoever says anything bad about his father or mother must complete in death or die. Exodus 21, verse 17. Yet you say, 'Whoever says to his father or mother, "Whatever you might have benefited from me has been given as a present to Almighty," so that by no means will this person honor his father or mother. Now you have invalidated Almighty's word because of your tradition. You hypocrites! Isaiah prophesied ideally about you when he said, "These people honor me with their lips, yet their hearts are a distance away from me. Now they are meaninglessly devoted to me, teaching as teachings the directions of humans." Isaiah 29, verse 13. Then he called the crowd to him and said to them, "You must be continually hearing and understanding. It isn't what goes into the mouth that contaminates a human. Rather, it is what comes out of the mouth that contaminates a human." Then the students approached and said to him, "Are you aware that the Pharisees tripped when they heard this saying?" Now in response he said, "Every plant that isn't planted by my heavenly Father will be uprooted. You must let them alone. They are blind guides of the blind. Now if the blind guide the blind, both will fall into a pit." Now in response, Peter said to him, "Decipher the illustration for us." Yet he said, "Are you also at this point unintelligent? Don't you yet comprehend that everything that goes into the mouth becomes the contents of the belly and is put out into the toilet? Now those things that come out of the mouth come out of the heart, and those are the things that contaminate a human. For out of the heart come wicked reasonings, murders, extramarital sexual intercourses, non-marital sexual intercourses, thefts, false testimonies, and slanderings. These things are the ones that contaminate a human. Yet to eat with unwashed hands doesn't contaminate a human." Then Jesus went out from there and departed into parts of Tyre and Sidon, in Phoenicia. Now notice, a Canaanite woman came out from those boundaries and began yelling out, saying, "Have mercy on me, Master, Son of David. My daughter is badly possessed by a demon." Yet he didn't respond a word to her. So his students approached and kept asking him, saying, "Dismiss her, because she is yelling behind us." Now in response he said, "I wasn't dispatched to anyone except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Yet she came and began worshiping him, saying, "Master, help me." Now in response he said, "It isn't ideal to give the children's biscuit and throw it to the puppies." Yet she said, "Yes, Master, but even the puppies eat from the scraps that fall from their master's table." Then in response Jesus said to her, "O woman, what great faith you have! It must occur for you like you are wanting." Now her daughter was healed from that hour. Then Jesus proceeded from there and went beside the Sea of Galilee, Lake Gennesaret. Then, after he had ascended onto the mountain, he began sitting there. Then great crowds came to him, having with them the lame, the maimed, the blind, the mute, and many others. They tossed them at his feet, and he cured them, so that the crowd marveled, as they observed the mute speaking, the maimed healthy, the lame walking, and the blind observing. And they esteemed the Almighty of Israel. Now Jesus called his students to him, and said, "I have compassion for the crowd, because they have already stayed with me for 3 days, and they don't have anything to eat. Now I don't want to dismiss them fasting, such that they might at some time faint on the road." Then the students said to him, "Where can we get so many biscuits in a wasteland in order to satisfy a crowd of so many?" Then Jesus said to them, "How many biscuits do you have?" Now they said, 7, and a few small fish. So after he had charged the crowd to lean back on the earth, he took the 7 biscuits and the fish, and after he had given thanks, he broke them and kept giving them to the students, and the students to the crowds. Then they all ate and were satisfied. Then they picked up 7 round baskets full of the abundant fragments. Now those who ate were about 4,000 men, apart from the women and little children. Then, after he had dismissed the crowds, he stepped into the ship and went into the boundaries of Magdala, a town near Dalmanutha. Matthew chapter 16. Then the Pharisees and the Sadducees approached, and testing him, they asked to have him show them a sign out of heaven. Now in response he said to them, know verse 3, "A generation that is wicked and is like a wife who has extramarital sexual intercourse, that is, one that worships other mighty ones, seeks for a sign, and no sign will be given to it, except for the sign of Jonah." Then he left them and went away. Now when the students went to the other side, they forgot to take some biscuits. Now Jesus said to them, "You must see and be continually paying attention to the leavened dough of the Pharisees and Sadducees." Now they began reasoning among themselves, saying, "It is because we didn't take any biscuits?" Now Jesus knew this and said, "Why are you reasoning among yourselves, you of little faith, that you don't have any biscuits? Don't you yet comprehend or remember the 5 biscuits of the 5,000, and how many large baskets you took up? Or the 7 biscuits of the 4,000, and how many round baskets you took up? How is it that you don't comprehend that I didn't speak to you about biscuits? Now you must be continually paying attention to the leavened dough of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Then they understood that he didn't say to pay attention to the leavened dough of biscuits, but to the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Now when Jesus came into parts of Caesarea Philippi, a city in Iturea, southwest Syria, he began asking his students, saying, "Who do humans say the Son of Humanity is?" Now they said, "Some say John, the Immerser, some Eliah, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets." He said to them, "Yet who do you say that I am?" Now in response, Simon Peter said, "You are the Anointed One, the Son of the living Almighty." Now in response, Jesus said to him, "Happy are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood didn't reveal it to you, but my Father who is in the heavens. Now I also say to you that you are Peter, a piece of rock, and upon this bedrock I will build my group of called ones, and the gates of the grave won't overpower it. I will give you the keys of the heavenly kingdom, and whatever you bind or forbid to be done on the earth will be what is already bound or forbidden in the heavens. And whatever you release or permit to be done on the earth will be what is already released or permitted in the heavens." Then he cautioned the students not to say to anyone that he is the Anointed One. From that time, Jesus began to show his students that he had to go away to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the older ones and chief priests and Bible scholars, and be killed, and on the 3rd day be awakened. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, "May mercy be shown to you, Master. By no means will this happen to you." Now he turned and said to Peter, "Go away behind me, Satan," the adversary. "You are to me an obstacle that can cause one to trip, because you aren't setting your mind on the things of Almighty, but on the things of humans." Then Jesus said to his students, "Whoever wants to come after me must disown himself, and must pick up his stake, and must be continually following me. For whoever wants to save his sentient being, his life, will destroy it in the destruction. Yet whoever destroys his sentient being on my account will find it alive in the last age. For what will it benefit a human if he gains the whole world, yet suffers the loss of his sentient being? Or what will a human give in exchange for his sentient being? For the Son of Humanity is going to come in the esteem of his Father, along with his messengers, at the beginning of the last age, and then he will pay each according to his practices. Truly I say to you, there are some of those standing here who shall under no circumstances taste death until they notice the Son of Humanity coming into his kingdom." And they did notice it. Matthew 28, verses 17 through 18. Matthew chapter 17. Then after 6 days, Jesus took aside Peter, James, and John, his brother, and took them up onto a high mountain privately. Then he was transformed in front of them, and his face shone like the sun, and his garments became white like the light. Now notice, Moses and Eliah were standing by them, conferring with him. Now in response, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it is ideal for us to be here. If it is what you want, I will make 3 tents here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, notice a cloud full of light overshadowed them, and notice a voice out of the cloud said, "This is my dearly loved Son, with whom I am delighted. You must be continually hearing him." Now when the students heard this, they fell on their faces and were tremendously afraid. Then Jesus approached and touched them, and said, "Get up, and stop being afraid." Now when they lifted up their eyes, they noticed no one except only Jesus. Now as they were descending from the mountain, Jesus directed them, saying, "Now you must not tell anyone about this vision until the Son of Humanity has been awakened from among the dead." Then his students asked him, saying, "So then, why do the Bible scholars say that Elijah has to come first?" Malachi 4 verse 5. Now in response, he said to them, "Elijah is to come and restore everything. Yet I say to you, Elijah has already come." And they didn't recognize him, but did whatever they wanted to him. This is how the Son of Humanity is also about to be suffering at their hands. Then the students understood that he spoke to them about John the Immerser. Now when they came to the crowd, a human came to him and fell on his knees before him and said, "Master, have mercy on my son, because he has a bad case of epilepsy, for he often falls into the fire and often into the water. I brought him to your students, but they couldn't cure him." Now in response, Jesus said to them, "Oh, what an unbelieving and perverted generation! How much longer shall I be with you? How much longer shall I tolerate you? Bring him here to me." Then Jesus rebuked it, and the demon came out of him, and the boy was cured from that hour. Then the students came to Jesus privately and said, "Why couldn't we throw it out?" Now he said to them, "Because you have so little faith. Truly I say to you, if you have faith like a kernel of mustard, you could declare to this mountain, 'Proceed from here to there,' and it would proceed, and nothing would be impossible for you." No verse 21. Now as they were strolling about in Galilee, Jesus said to them, "The Son of Humanity is about to be delivered over into the hands of humans, and they will kill him, and on the 3rd day he will be awakened." Now when they came into Capernaum, Jesus' hometown, those who were taking the number 160 Greek coin came to Peter and said, "Doesn't your teacher settle the number 160 Greek coin tribute or tax?" He said, "Yes." So when he came into the house, Jesus passed before him and said, "What do you suppose, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth get tribute or tax or poll tax? From their sons or from the aliens?" Now after he said, "From the aliens," Jesus affirmed to him, "Therefore the sons are definitely free. Yet so that we won't cause them to trip, you must go and throw a fish hook into the sea or lake, and must pick up the first fish that comes up. And when you have opened its mouth, you will find a number 320 coin. You must take that and give it to them for you and me." Matthew chapter 18. Now at that hour the students came to Jesus, saying, Who is therefore greatest in the heavenly kingdom? He called a little child to him, and stood it among them, and said, Truly I say to you, unless you turn and become like little children, you will by no means enter into the heavenly kingdom. So then, whoever will humble himself like this little child is the greatest in the heavenly kingdom. Now whoever welcomes one such little child using my name, Jesus, welcomes me. Yet whoever causes one of these little ones who have faith in me to trip, it would cause improvement for him to have a millstone that requires a donkey to turn it, hung around his neck, and to be sunk in the open sea. How terrible it is for the world because of the obstacles that can cause one to trip. For it is necessary for the obstacles that can cause one to trip to come. However, how terrible it is for that human through whom the obstacle that can cause one to trip comes. Now if your hand or your foot is causing you to trip, you must chop it off and throw it from you. It would be ideal for you to enter into life maimed or lame than to have 2 hands and 2 feet, and to be thrown into the fire of the last age, to be destroyed in the second death. Revelation 20 verses 14 through 15. If your eye is causing you to trip, you must yank it out and throw it from you. It would be ideal for you to enter into life one-eyed than to have 2 eyes and to be thrown into the Gehenna of fire. This is symbolic of the destroying fire of the second death. You must see to it that you don't despise one of these little ones. For I say to you that their messengers in the heavens are all the time observing the face of my Father who is in the heavens. No, verse 11. What do you suppose? If it occurs that any human has 100 sheep, and one of them has been led astray, won't he leave the 99 sheep on the mountains, and go back and seek the one that is straying? Now if it occurs that he finds it, truly I say to you, he's going to rejoice over it, rather than over the 99 that haven't strayed. In this way, in front of your Father who is in the heavens, it isn't wanted that one of these little ones be destroyed in the destruction. Now if your brother or sister does something that is wrong, you must go and expose him between you and him alone. If he hears you, you have gained your brother or sister. Yet if he doesn't hear you, you must take still 1 or 2 others along with you, so that every declaration must be established by the mouths of 2 or 3 witnesses. Deuteronomy 19 verse 15. Now if he disregards them, you must tell it to the group of called ones. Now if he also disregards the group of called ones, you must let him be to you just like the pagan, and the tribute or tax collector. Truly I say to you, whatever you bind or forbid to be done on the earth will be what is already bound or forbidden in heaven, and whatever you release or permit to be done on the earth will be what is already released or permitted in heaven. Again, truly I say to you, if 2 of you agree on the earth about any matter, whatever they might request, it will occur for them from my Father who is in the heavens. For where 2 or 3 have gathered together in my name, Jesus, I am going to be there among them. Then Peter approached and said to him, Master, how many times should I forgive my brother or sister when he does something that is wrong against me? Up to 7 times? Jesus said to him, I'm not saying to you up to 7 times, but up to 77 times. For this reason, the heavenly kingdom is like a human king, who wants to settle accounts with his slaves. Now as he began to settle, one debtor was brought to him who owed 10,000 bags, each containing 6,000 number 80 coins. Now since he didn't have the means to pay, the master ordered that he, his wife, his children, and everything that he had be disposed of to make the payment. So that slave then fell down and began worshiping him, saying, "Be patient with me, and I will pay you everything." Now the master of that slave felt compassion for him, and dismissed him, and forgave his loan. Yet that slave went out and found one of his fellow slaves, who was owing him 100 number 80 Roman coins. And he took hold of him, and began choking him, saying, "Pay me what you owe." So his fellow slave then fell down and began encouraging him, saying, "Be patient with me, and I will pay you everything." Yet he wasn't willing, but went away and threw him into jail, until he paid what he owed. So when his fellow slaves then noticed what had occurred, they were tremendously sorry, and went and made it clear to their master everything that had occurred. Then his master called him and said to him, "You wicked slave, I forgave you that entire debt, since you encouraged me. Wasn't it also binding on you to have mercy on your fellow slave, just like I also had mercy on you?" Now his master was angry, and delivered him over to the torturers, until he should pay everything he owed him. This is how my heavenly Father will also do to you, unless each one of you forgives his brother and sister from your hearts.